Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Today we're unboxing the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga. So, if you follow my reviews, then you know that the X1 Yoga is my favorite laptop that exists. Okay, it's a convertible. Right, so obviously ThinkPad X1 is the premium ThinkPad brand. And so I got the X1 Carbon, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, might have been 1 week ago. I don't know. I just got back from China for a week, and honestly, time is a little jumbled to me. So I actually have it right here. These are 2.4 pounds. They sent me two. One is the full HD. One is this is the full HD, and this is the UHD with the Dolby Vision. And the reason they did that is because the full HD one actually not only does it get better battery life, but it has better performance as well. And they also sent me two of the X1 Yoga for the same reason. Also in front of me here, I have last year's X1 Yoga and the year before's X1 Yoga. And so there's a couple of issues that I have with this year's, and there's a couple things that are different about it, by the way. So 2 years ago, they had an OLED model. Last year, they killed off OLED and replaced it with Dolby Vision. That's my first gripe. Because, honestly, that QHD OLED was so sweet. And Dolby Vision is pretty sweet, don't get me wrong, but it's just not OLED. The X1 Extreme just brought back OLED, so hopefully next year they'll bring it back. But the other thing is my favorite feature of the X1 Yoga was the lift and lock keyboard. And lift and lock keyboard is this thing where you see, you fold the screen back, and then boom, the keys just go flat against the palm rest. So when you're using it as a tablet, those keys don't get in your way. And it's a very small annoyance on other convertibles, but it's those little small improvements that matter when reviewing a laptop. Where, you know, the thing about laptops these days is a lot of them are just the same. Where you know, if Dell is sending me a new XPS 13, I know what I'm getting because, you know, I know the general design, I know what goes in there. And I know what a Core i7-8565U, 16 gigs of RAM, and 512 gigs of storage is going to get me. So those little extra features, they matter. So this year's X1 Yoga does not have the lift and lock keyboard. And so, and the reason I'm talking about this so much is because I feel like Lenovo is taking away the things that I love so much about the X1 Yoga one at a time. First it was the OLED. Now it's the lift and lock keyboard. Like, it's still probably going to be my favorite convertible because it's still a great machine, right? That Dolby Vision is still beautiful. It's still got the best keyboard around. ThinkPad keyboards are one of the best. I would have said the best a year ago, but HP's doing some really cool things with their new EliteBooks. So I'm not saying that the EliteBooks are better, but I'm saying we're getting better keyboards all around. So it's the best keyboard, one of the best displays, still an awesome convertible. But so there are some other changes that we're going to get to in a second. Now, I don't know which one is in which box. They should look exactly the same. Unlike the Carbon comes in two designs. One is the regular carbon fiber black. The other is a carbon fiber weave design. Okay, so you notice that, by the way, this just comes in a regular cardboard box. Wow, this is very light, by the way. Comes in a regular cardboard box, which has not been the case with previous X1 Yogas that I've reviewed, which is kind of strange. I always thought it was strange that the X1 Yoga that I've seen before comes in more of a consumer-style box, which is just, you know, a fancier box that you see a lot of consumer products come in. And business devices, which the Think brand is a business brand, which is why that always kind of surprised me. Business PCs tend to come in more of a box like this, and that's because obviously, IT admins usually give you your PC in a business. You never actually see the box. It's easy to stack on a rack in an office or in a stock room somewhere. So this actually makes more sense. I'm just surprised to see it because the previous X1 Yogas that I've reviewed have come in that consumer style box. So let's get this one out. And yes, they do look exactly the same. So there's going to be more to discover. I don't know the specs of these devices that they've sent me. I just know that one's going to be full HD and one's going to be UHD with Dolby Vision. So the only other thing in the box is going to be the charger here, and it's your standard 65 watt USB Type-C. And they made that move a couple of years ago to all USB Type-C, at least in the X1. There's still, maybe it's just the more powerful ThinkPads that require that Lenovo proprietary charger. The powerful ones, because obviously you can't do USB Type-C over like 100 watts, depending on the brand, honestly, but I'm not going to get into that. Like I said, I don't know the specs. The thing about the display, it's UHD, Dolby Vision, and Full HD. There's also a QHD model that is not Dolby Vision. So that in itself is a change from previous generations. Remember, I mentioned that OLED model. That was a QHD OLED. Last year's model was Dolby Vision. That was also QHD, 1440p, 16:9. And so this is the first 14-inch ThinkPad, along with the Carbon, that is offered in 4K. And so now that top-end variant with 4K is the one that you're going to have to get that Dolby Vision quality. And there's still a QHD model, but it's not Dolby Vision anymore. So you're going to see differences in the display quality between the 4K and the 1080p once we get these open. So you notice something different about this? That's right. It's aluminum. And yes, it is the first aluminum ThinkPad, or the first all-aluminum ThinkPad. Notice, all black. This one, the one that looks more beaten up is the one from 2 years ago. Yeah, that's a combination of carbon fiber and glass fiber. Obviously, the Carbon is still made of carbon fiber, hence the name. They'd have a tougher time changing that, to be honest. So there's a couple of things that they changed up on this, and really, they wanted to make an aluminum laptop. And by the way, they did a great job. And so aluminum is a little thicker than the materials they used before, and I'm told that that's not why they got rid of the lift and lock keyboard. Because remember, aluminum is a heavy material. If you're buying an aluminum laptop, it's heavy. And if you wish it was, a fraction of a pound lighter, it could have been done by using a different material, like carbon fiber, or magnesium, or anything like that, or a magnesium alloy. Although magnesium alloys tend to feel a little plastic. So this is actually lighter than last year's model. It comes in at 2.99 pounds, where last year was 3.09 pounds. And I feel like they were shooting for under 3 pounds. Another thing is that the footprint is smaller. So we can pull out... Last year's chassis was the same as the year before. But if I put these next to each other, you can see that it is a much smaller body. Although, yeah, it's smaller. It's smaller from every side. And I'm told that that's why they had to get rid of that lift and lock keyboard. Because remember, I mean, obviously lift and lock, it requires more stuff on the inside. It's stuff to pull those keys in. So it makes sense that it's a pain to do. Lenovo told me that they were finding that people weren't folding back the display much, which I totally believe. I totally believe that if you buy a convertible laptop, 99% of the time you're using it just like this. But on the other hand, if you don't want to build it to go like this, then there's not much point in building a convertible at all, is there? So I guess they just deemed it to be not as important. So what I'm saying is, while I understand why they took it away, I do miss it. All right, and there's a couple other design changes on here. We can see that we have our black ThinkPad logo. That logo has evolved over the years. We have it was more of a glossy black in last year, and then of course we have that more traditional gray silverish ThinkPad logo from a couple of years ago, which is still the one that's used on the non-X1 ThinkPads. So I am going to boot these up, and I'm going to figure out which one is which and what's inside them. Okay, so the one to the right here is definitely the 4K UHD model. Let's take a look at what's inside. We've got a Core i7-8665U, 16 gigs of RAM, and should be 1 terabyte of storage. I'm getting the feeling this is going to be the exact same specs of the two Carbons that I got, but we can just take a look at the Full HD model over here and just see what's inside of that. And I'm guessing it's going to be a Core i7 8565U. Am I right? Yes, 8565U. Oh, this one has 8 gigs of RAM. Interesting. And that, I'm guessing, is usually paired with 256 gigs of storage. Yes. So what they actually sent me with the Carbon, it was a Core i7 8665U, 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage in the 4K model, which is the same as I have here. But in the 1080p model, they actually sent me an 8565U, 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. So it's a little easier to compare those in terms of performance. And I actually noted to Lenovo that I had some performance troubles on the 4K model, that I found it to be notably better on the full HD model, and they said that shouldn't be a thing. I sent them my benchmark scores and they said that's normal, so whatever that is. But the point is that those were mostly equal, except for the 8665U is the V Pro variant of the Whiskey Lake i7. So it'll be a little I assume that performance is still going to be better on the 4K model on this one, because we only have 8 gigs of RAM on the full HD model. So you can kind of see the difference between the displays here. If I bump up the brightness, we can see that it does get pretty bright, although, whoa, function lock is not on this one, so alright. So yeah, it does get pretty bright on both sides. The Dolby Vision gets a little brighter, but they both look pretty good. I don't know that you're really missing out on anything by not getting the Dolby Vision. They're beautiful devices. So we're just going to close up this one and we can take a look at one of them rather than trying to take a look at two at once. Just want to put the displays next to each other. Okay, so there are a bunch of improvements this time around. Okay, obviously smaller bezels. That's why we fit it in that smaller footprint. There's an IR camera on the top, and it still has a ThinkShutter privacy guard, although it's on the inside there. So that'll block the camera. Okay, and we also have kind of a top-facing speaker here right above the keyboard. So we should get a lot better audio quality. Now, here's the thing. Audio quality 2 years ago with this device, audio quality was not good. So it's really great to see Lenovo focusing on that a little bit. Okay, so that's going to be, it says it's Dolby Atmos, so it should be pretty good. And what's cool is you can see that it kind of comes over the hinge a little bit. And what that means is that even when you're using it as a tablet, and this stuff might be, this speaker on the keyboard will be facing away from you, at least that'll be firing up a little bit and you'll have better audio quality. Okay, so yeah, lovely device so far. We can take a look at our port selection here. We have our power button over here, USB 3.1 Gen 1, that's good for 5 gigabits per second. We're going to take a look at that pen in a second. Oh look, there's a BIOS update. Alright, 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which is good for 40 gigabits per second each, or you can plug in 2 4K displays into each one, or one 5K display into each one. This one's good for mechanical docking. Obviously with integrated graphics, you're not really going to want to use 4 4K displays, but what you could do if you wanted to is you could plug an external GPU into one of them and plug 2 4K displays into another one. Another USB 3.1 Gen 1 port, HDMI 1.4, and of course a 3.5 millimeter combo audio jack. We do have more speakers on the bottom, by the way, which is really nice. So that's really great for using it as a tablet, because you always have speakers firing right at you. Over here, we have the pen. That's the other feature that I really love about the ThinkPad X1 Yoga, although it's becoming more common in convertibles, and Lenovo is doing it in its consumer convertibles now, which is that it just has that built-in pen. You don't have to worry about carrying one around with you. Obviously, that means it's a smaller pen, but you think about the other options. If a smaller pen is okay for you, where, say, with a Microsoft Surface, you have a magnetic pen that just sticks to the side. The problem with that is it falls off in your bag. Like the Lenovo Yoga 920, that had a little pen loop that stuck into the USB Type A port. The problem with that is that it takes up a USB Type A port. So there are a lot of solutions for pen storage. This is my favorite one. It's always with you, it's always charged, and it's just a good method. So if you like to use the pen, It's there always. And it's another thing, like I said, I totally believe that people don't use the convertible in tablet mode 99% of the time. So just, like the idea that I would be using this as a clamshell 99% of the time, I probably wouldn't want to carry around a pen with me. So when I'm out and about, if I come across a use case where I do want that pen, it's right there when I need it. Okay. Just a couple other things. The ThinkPad design, although this is an aluminum body and things have changed, the general idea of it hasn't changed. You still got that track point right here in the middle of the G, H, and B keys. There's a precision trackpad with physical buttons above it. These are great for using with the track point, and I like it with the trackpad as well, just because it's great for drag and drop. So yeah, we got the fingerprint sensor over here, Windows Hello camera on top of the display, and of course the power button is on the side, which is standard for convertibles. And that idea is apparently coming to clamshells now as well, just because that's where the power button is on the Carbon as well. You know what's interesting, just looking at this device, is that it does remind me of the Lenovo ThinkBook 13S that I reviewed. And the ThinkBook, it's an aluminum laptop that's kind of meant to be a ThinkPad without being a ThinkPad. Doesn't have that track point or the physical buttons above the keyboard, and it's almost like Lenovo wanted to rethink ThinkPads. They wanted to rethink. Love it. Anyway, I see a lot of people that, because these are magnificent PCs, ThinkPads. They're wonderful. Always. They have great keyboards, and that's so important. Nice displays, depending on which one you get. And I tell a lot of people, like, oh, that X1 Yoga, that's the best PC. That's the one you want to buy. They ask me, which one should I buy? I say X1 Yoga. And they don't like it. They don't like that track point. They don't like the all-black design. They want something that's a little more fashionable, maybe. Some of these features are dated, but at the same time, you have your ThinkPad lovers out there. Like, there's this huge cult following. Not even a cult following. It's a mainstream following that ThinkPad has that doesn't want to give those things up. So Lenovo is kind of stuck in this dilemma where they want to please these people that want something different, and they need to please these people that's their base. So that's kind of where ThinkBook comes from, and I feel like switching to aluminum with the X1 Yoga is kind of like taking that step. Like let's see that if this is gonna upset our base, and I'm sure they would love to modernize the ThinkPad as much as they could, but I feel like this is a great hybrid where it's more of a modern look. It's made of aluminum, and it's not a flashy aluminum. It's a very professional looking, sleek business device. It's not shiny. It's not not like HP's angular edges or anything like that. This is it's professional looking, and yeah, I feel like Lenovo did a great job with this. I do wish it had lift and lock keyboard. I do wish it came with OLED, but yeah, this is probably still going to be my favorite ThinkPad when I'm done with this, but for different reasons than it was 2 years ago. I'm probably going to enjoy the audio. Obviously, I'm still going to love the keyboard. The keyboard does feel a little bit different, though, I got to say, but obviously I'm going to spend more time with it. We'll see how that goes. Let's install this BIOS update because I think we're just about done here. So, guys, that's it. That's the 4th generation ThinkPad X1 Yoga. Remember, the 4th generation is alongside the 7th generation X1 Carbon, and there is no 4th generation ThinkPad X1 tablet yet. I suspect that foldable X1 PC that Lenovo's coming out with next year, I suspect they might just end up calling that the X1 tablet, because they kind of discontinued the line. So, guys, that's it. I'll have a review on this in a few weeks. Stay tuned for that. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.